Hey, Facebook family, how are you? It is a joy, again, and a privilege to be able to come to you on this magnificent Monday, to be able to share with you what God did on Sensational Sunday. And that was, we were still in our series of 1 Corinthians, and we went to chapter 10, and we began to deal with something and a subject matter that affects everybody. I don't care what color you are, what culture you come from, what your customs might be, really don't care what class you might live in. This thing affects everybody. From the millionaire that has a mansion, that drives a Bentley, to the person that may be considered poor that has a bicycle living under a bridge. It doesn't matter, because it affects everybody. And the thing that I'm talking about is a thing called temptation. Some people just succumb to it. Some people try to act as though it does not exist. And then there are others who seek to fight against it. Well, we found out in the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13, where Paul says there's no temptation that has overcome us or overtaken us that is not common to man. The first thing that we recognize from that verse is that Paul says that when it comes to temptation, we have to accept the reality of temptation. And that is, it is a truth, it is actual, it is factual, that all of us are tempted. And temptation is common. He says in the verse that it is not common to man, meaning that everything that we go through, somebody else has gone through. Every struggle that we have, somebody else has the same struggle. So you don't have no unique struggle. Yours is not special. Yours is not unique. Yours is not so deep or so light that no one else goes through it. No, it's common, but it's also consistent. It constantly comes up. It's continual. I mean, you knock it down one day, it'll be standing up right in your face the next hour, let alone the next day. So we all get tempted. But Paul says in the midst of recognizing the reality of temptation, he also says we ought to realize the restraint that God gives the believer in temptation. He says that God is faithful and will not allow us to be tempted beyond the measure that we are able to bear it. He gives restraint in the midst of it because he knows what we can bear and what we can't bear. And you say, no, wait a minute. Sometimes, Bishop, this thing gets so heavy. Ain't no way that God can expect me not to deal with or to deal with it in a succumbing manner to it. No, my sister and my brother, I did not say that God does not control us succumbing or not succumbing to it. I did say that God is faithful, so much so that with the temptation, he will not allow the temptation to be more heavy than our ability to handle it. But you say again, I hear you saying again, no, some of the stuff that I come to, I mean, come on, I can't. I succumb to it, so there's no way I can deal with it. No, I didn't say that God did not allow it. I did say that whatever he does allow, he knows what it is and how much it is we can bear. He really does. The problem is we choose the wrong method to deal with it. We do that, not God. We do that. He gets in it with us. He's faithful. And this is what he'll do. We not only must do that, but thirdly, Paul says in that verse, we've got to rely on the remedy for temptation. Not just rejoice in the restraint of temptation that we have, not just recognize the reality of temptation, but we've got to literally rely on the remedy for temptation. What's the remedy? Same verse, verse 13 says this, he will not allow us to bear it beyond the measure that we can bear it. But he says this, along with the temptation, he gives us a way of an escape. Now, that's where I think most believers get caught at or miss what he's saying. God never expects for the believer to endure temptation. He expects for us to endure tribulation, but not temptation. He expects the believer to escape from temptation. He never tells us to stand against temptation. He tells us to stand against the devil, but not against temptation. He tells us to literally escape from, run from temptation. That's the reason why most Christians succumb to it, because they try to stand against it or resist it when God never said he wanted us to resist it. He never wanted us to restrain from it. He told us to run from it, escape from it. That word there is where Paul gives a perfect illustration of it, or Paul says to us, 2 Timothy chapter 2, flee useful lusts. No, don't stand and fight that. You flee from it. You run from it and get with the people that call on the name of the Lord as a result of it. You're just not a fugitive running with futility. No, you're running with focus and getting with people that believe what you believe so that they can strengthen you. So in the summation of our little talk this morning or this day, I need to say this to you. There is a remedy to deal with temptation. We got to recognize the reality of it. We got to rejoice in the restraint of it, but we also have to rely on the remedy of it. And all of it's found in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13. If you want the furtherance of this message, you can look us up on thesbc.org, thesbc.org. Pray that you have a blessed day. Love you. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be able to minister to you. Be blessed and have a good one. Peace. I'm out.